Good evening. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials, grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Riska. Can we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Here.
Mrs. Koski?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Here.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Shannon?
Present.
Mrs. Zerko?
Present.
Thank you. Council, we need approval of the agenda tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the agenda. Support.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This again is a special city council meeting. It's a budget workshop discussion. This is the second of our 3 budget workshops. So at this time, I will turn it over to our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. We're very pleased to continue on with our proposed fiscal year 2018-2019 budget. And like the first budget hearing, we have a number of presentations planned this evening for City Council, and certainly will be available for any questions and thoughts after the comments. In addition, or after the presentation. In addition, we do have a budget amendment before you this evening concerning the school resource officers. So City Council will need to take that into consideration so we can incorporate it into the final budget, which will need to be approved on May 1st at the regular City Council meeting. And so at this point, once again, I'd like to call on Budget and Finance Director Jennifer Varney, who will provide a financial overview of the budgets this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Koszewski, and members of council. Tonight we continue our budget workshop, including discussion of the last 4 general fund departments, the public library, the police department, community relations, and public works, and also the water and sewer fund and the parks and recreation fund. First up, the remaining departments in the general fund. Starting with the public library, which represents 2.7% of the general fund budget. The library has 13 full-time and 26 part-time employees. And the budget for the public library totals $2.85 million, and like most departmental budgets, is made up primarily of personnel costs, represented here by the purple portion of this chart. The public library budget increased $127,000 or 4.7% over last year, and again, almost entirely due to personnel costs. Contractual wage increases made up $50,000 of the increase, and higher pension costs added $21,000. And a part-time teen librarian will be converted to full-time, and this increased the personnel budget by about $50,000. The capital budget includes funding for 2 Storywalk picture book displays that are used to display pictures from a children's book along an outdoor path. Programming center attendance peaked in 2009 and then fell to a low in 2014 due to budget cuts which reduced staffing. Since 2014, program attendance has been increasing again due to an emphasis on early literacy classes for our youngest residents, as well as technology training. This past year, there was an emphasis on programming for teenagers, including the formation of a teen advisory board. Next up is the police department, which is our largest department and totals over 32% of the general fund budget. The department has 207 total employees divided into 4 divisions. Now, this employee count includes an increase of 2 officers as a result of the amendment to the proposed budget to be approved tonight for the addition of the 2 school resource officers. The total police budget is $33.8 million, and over 90% of the budget is personnel costs. The total budget increased $726,000, or just over 2%. Personnel costs increased $750,000 due to wage increases and increased pension costs, And we also added an additional part-time animal control officer. Now, these increases were offset by savings due to the timing of police officer hiring. Supply costs decreased $86,000 due to the funding of bulletproof vests and new officer uniforms in the prior year. And other charges increased $62,000 due to increased contracted costs for the dispatch center and the detention center, and also for increased training costs due to officer promotions and turnover. Highlights of the capital budget include the replacement of 265 portable and mobile radios, a total of 14 police vehicles, 2 replacement motorcycles, 1 replacement and 1 additional dog for the K-9 unit, and the final 6 emergency warning sirens. The next department is Community Relations, which makes up 1.4% of the general fund budget, the little orange sliver there. The department has 7 full-time and 2 part-time employees, and the total budget is $1.5 million this year. An increase of only $15,000 or 1.1% is made up of higher wages and pension costs, but it's offset by the costs for the 50th anniversary activities in the prior year. The public art budget was transferred to capital projects, and Sterling Fest expenditures are now budgeted in this department. Our third largest department is Public Works, the purple portion of the pie, and when combined with refuse costs makes up 11.1% of the general fund budget. The department is made up of 5 divisions and 60 employees, along with numerous contracted services. The total budget for Public Works excluding refuse is $7.2 million.
I'm sorry, I'm leaving this man.
For God's sake, Charles, I mean, you walk in here and you interrupt our meeting. You're the only person here and you interrupt our meeting.
Okay, thanks for the lecture.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Varney.
Go ahead,
Please
Mr. Varney.
continue.
The budget increased $299,000 or 4.4%. A full-time Parks and Ground laborer was added, although this position is funded through Recreating Recreation. And wages and increased pension costs increased the budget by about $200,000, and higher irrigation costs for city medians as well as city parks amounted to about $120,000 increase. Now, these increases were offset by fuel savings and the transfer of the noxious weed program to neighborhood services. The capital budget includes 6 replacement vehicles, the replacement of the roof on the salt barn, and replacements of a tandem axle dump truck and a 4x4 pickup, both with plows. Next is the Water and Sewer Fund, which makes up almost 23% of the total city budget at just under $53 million. This fund includes 3 divisions with 32 full-time and 10 part-time employees. Now, nearly 80% or almost $41.5 million of the cost of the Water and Sewer Fund are controlled by the Great Lakes Water Authority and the Macomb County Public Works. On the graph, that's the sewage disposal plus the water purchase plus the debt service. That's the portions I'm talking about. Now, of these costs, $31 million, or about 75%, are fixed, and that means we pay that $31 million no matter how much water is used. Now, every year the water and sewer costs go up and down, usually up, but here's a summary of the changes for this year. The cost of water from the GLWA actually decreased this year by 7.4% over last year's budget. And if you remember, we renegotiated our contract terms a few months ago, and we estimated that that would result in a decrease, and it did. And that had to do with reducing the city's maximum day and peak hour usage. So that's where we're seeing the decrease from that renegotiation. Now, the other costs all increased. Sewer costs from Macomb County will increase by 2.7% over last year's budget. The debt service from Macomb County increased 7.1%, and that's due to the sinkhole debt, which is higher than what was estimated. City costs are increased 4.9% due to contractual wage adjustments, increased pension costs, and additional funding for a citywide valve repair program that's required by the Michigan DEQ. Other changes include 2 laborer positions that were added to the sewer department. However, this cost was offset by savings in contractual services. The capital budget includes the replacement of a 1-ton utility truck, a backup generator for the Riverland lift station, a hands-free wireless communication for sewer maintenance crews, and a sanitary sewer camera truck. Now, in order to cover these costs, a 3.9% water and sewer increase will be passed on to water and sewer customers. This will cost the average residential user $3 a month and bringing the average monthly cost to $77. And I'm pleased to report that this is the lowest water and sewer increase in over 10 years. This shows the average residential water and sewer bills for the current year, because we obviously don't know what other communities are doing next year. So for this year, the average residential customer currently pays $74 a month, and that still compares favorably to other similarly sized cities. And again, the proposed budget increase will equate to approximate $3 per month increase for the average residential user. Now, this increase will also allow the city to begin to build up water and sewer reserves that have been severely eroded over the past 10 years. This shows the water and sewer fund net income or loss from operation over the past 10 years. And as you can see, we've been losing money, particularly in the last 5 years, over $18 million during this time period, which has reduced our water and sewer fund balance. This year, we're estimating to break even, and then this current budget with the rate increase includes an increase to fund balance of just under $1 million. Now, we have to reverse this trend of losing money in this fund, because reserves are very important to fund future infrastructure improvements, and adequate reserves can mitigate large rate increases for those improvements. And finally, the Parks and Recreation Department. As a reminder, the Parks and Recreation Department is now its own special revenue fund and totals just under $27 million. The department has 11 full-time and 4 permanent part-time positions, along with numerous seasonal staff. The total budget of $26.9 million is depicted here, and as you can see from the orange portion of the graph, consists primarily of capital expenditures funded through proceeds from the $45 million Recreating Recreation bond issued last spring. The annual debt service on this bond of $3 million is funded through the millage, and the Recreating Recreation millage also funds operating costs arising from the new amenities and services. The pre-existing Parks and Recreation expenses are funded through a transfer from the general fund to this fund, and this year that totaled $1.3 million. The total Parks and Rec fund budget increased $7.5 million, or 39%, but again, nearly all of the increase, $7.3 million, is due to increased capital expenditures for the Recreating Recreation amenities. And some of the projects slated for the 18-19 fiscal year include the completion of the dog park renovations, including the splash pad, ice rink, and farmers market pavilion, the completion of the dog park, and the groundbreaking on the community center. The personnel budget increased $135,000 to fund 2 full-time recreation specialists that are necessary to implement and coordinate all of the activities resulting from the Recreating Recreation initiatives. And again, an additional facility maintenance mechanic and parks and ground position are funded through this fund. And the capital budget includes the purchase of a Zamboni and other equipment for the new ice rink, 3 John Deere Gator vehicles for ball field and general park maintenance, and an aerial work platform. A few performance indicators from Parks and Rec. Attendance at the senior center has remained relatively constant over the past 10 years and continues to exceed 100,000 participants per year. The addition of discounted memberships at the Warren Community Center has been a great benefit to our residents. Annual memberships for Sterling Heights residents continue to increase, and as of January 2018 totaled 762. And this is just annual memberships and does not include the thousands of daily drop-ins that do not purchase memberships. And as a reminder, a Sterling Heights family saves $70 on an annual membership and $7 on the daily drop-in fee. And that concludes my overview of the city budget, and I will turn it back over to Mr. Vanderpool.
And thank you. As Mayor and Council, you know, our 2030 vision statement reads as follows: a vibrant, inclusive community for residents and businesses that is safe, active, progressive, and distinctive. Sterling Heights, a bold vision for an exceptional quality of life. All of the presentations you will hear tonight reflect the spirit of our 2030 vision statement, beginning with the police department. Chief Dale Wojciechowski will now highlight the numerous initiatives contained in the police budget.
Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool, thank you. Tonight I'm proud to give a brief overview of the police department's budget, and obviously being the biggest part of the general fund, I take this seriously and make sure we spend every dollar responsibly to give the biggest bang to the community and everyone that we serve. So tonight we're going to be covering several different areas of our budget, including vehicles, a lot of new vehicles that had to be purchased, a lot of these through general city funds, and a lot of vehicles purchased through drug forfeiture funds. Equipment, some exciting new equipment that's on the horizon, and I'll be talking about that tonight. And public programs, we have a lot of public programs. Some of them are continuations and others are brand new programs that we've just started. And the big ticket item is a building improvements at the police department that we are all very excited to see. As far as vehicles, the police department is going to be receiving 9 Ford Explorer patrol vehicles for this coming budget year, 5 unmarked investigative vehicles, 2 Harley-Davidson police motorcycles. We have 3 Harley-Davidsons now. We're going to be trading in all 3 of those Harleys. They are old Harleys, over 10 years old. They do not have anti-lock brakes. They do not have the new suspension system. So we're trading them in to a local dealer. We got a really good rate on the trade-in, and we're going to be purchasing 2 state-of-the-art new Harleys with new safety features. We're getting a new animal control van. That's going to go towards our new part-time animal control officer that was approved in the budget. We've had a lot of animal control runs, so that is desperately needed. And we just recently, literally within the last 2 weeks, got a emergency purchase for a new prisoner transport van. I'll show you that here shortly, and a raid van. So we're excited about all of our new vehicle purchases. As far as patrol vehicles go, as you know, a couple years ago, we switched to the 2018 or the Ford Police Interceptor SUV. From the Chevy Caprice. The Chevy Caprice was built off of a Pontiac G8 built in Australia. Not the best car for Michigan, for snow, for rain. So when these cars came on the market, the officers were very excited, to say the least. A lot of cargo room, and the biggest thing is all-wheel drive. So the guys were fighting for these cars during the winter months and not wanting to drive those Chevys in the snow. So these cars have been a big win for us, and the guys love these cars. The Harley-Davidsons that we're going to be purchasing, again, improved suspension, LED lighting, anti-lock brakes, and the motorcycle is phenomenal, so we'll be getting 2 of those as well. Auxiliary vehicles. The great thing about the city, when we buy new vehicles, patrol cars, our old patrol cars actually get repurposed. They get repurposed as DPW vehicles, Parks and Recreation vehicles, code vehicles. And this is another example of repurposing an old police car, and it's our Citizens Patrol unit. We have 2 of these, CP1 and CP2. They're parked right outside in front of the Upton House. They're utilized pretty much every single night by our Citizens Patrol, and that police car is getting a second life, so to speak. This is our new raid van. We use this for SRT and tactical callouts. You can see in the back there's 2 large bench seats, grab handles, and those are flip-up bench spots. That's replacing a 20-year-old van that literally shouldn't have been on the road, so we're very excited about getting that car. That just went into service last week. This is our brand new prisoner van. Every single night we have prisoners that need to go to the Macomb County Jail, and our old prisoner van was 20 years old, and the engine blew up and was non-replaceable. So we have a brand new van, state-of-the-art, Inside the van are two separate prisoner compartments with a divider down the middle, and what this picture doesn't show on the right side of the van is a third compartment for a violent prisoner section. So we can actually house prisoners in 3 different parts of this van, and they're all completely physically separated, and there's cameras in each part of that van. So this van is state-of-the-art, and hopefully we get 20-plus years out of this van. Equipment. I'm pleased to announce we're going to be purchasing our first unmanned aircraft system, a UAS or a drone, this summer. We're going to be replacing our 800 megahertz radios. Our prep radios are over 10 years old, and they're starting to fail. Every day a radio is going down, and they're no longer servicing the radios that we have. So we need over 200 radios to replace our mobile preps and the in-car systems that we have. And our radios that are still currently working are going to be, again, repurposed throughout the city. And I know DPW is looking for spare parts and radios. And we're also replacing the last 6 emergency sirens in the city. The drone, that is the drone right now that we're looking at. It's by DJI. It's called the Inspire. And the drone, you have to be licensed to operate this drone. We're going to be sending 5 officers. It's actually an online course, but we're going to have 5 officers trained as drone pilots by the FAA. There are strict privacy rights. We just cannot fly this over your house or in your backyard. If we needed a search warrant before, we need a search warrant now. But we'll be able to use this for crash scene mapping, tactical responses, lost children, elderly calls. In the last 2 years, we had over 280 lost or missing person runs that we could have deployed this drone for. We've had over 10 SRT callouts. One comes to mind at 16 in Shaner. Suspect crashed his car. He was armed. He was in the car. He would not come out of the car. So we had to send an officer with a shield in his hand up to the car with this guy pointing a gun at our head to pull him out of that car. Well, we didn't know if he was alive or dead or armed. Now we're going to send a drone up to that car. We're not sending an officer to go get shot. We're going to send a drone up there to see if it's safe to enter or get by that car. So a lot of tactical responses that we can use this drone for. This is really exciting. This drone is capable with some software that we're going to be purchasing. In this picture, what you're seeing, the red dots up at the very top of the picture are actually GPS satellites. That's in outer space. All the blue and green dots are where the drone was actually flying over the roadway and taking digital photographs of the intersection below. So the drone knows through GPS where it's at. It takes a bunch of digital photography pictures of the crash scene. We use this during crashes. And this is what you get. The drone photographs the entire intersection, stitches all these thousands of photos together, and we can completely reconstruct the accident, figure out who's at fault, and testify in court based off drone footage and drone video, all stitched together in a 3D model. So we're getting the software, and the drone's going to be capable. And the good news is, a typical scene like this, a roadway, an intersection could be closed down for 4 to 6 hours. Now, less than a couple hours. The drone does its pictures. We have everything captured. We take the cars with a tow truck. We get them out of there. Roadway's open. The citizens are happy. My officers are happy because it's dangerous to be out in the middle of a roadway whenever you have something blocked. And with more precision. So the drone's going to be a welcome tool. Emergency weather sirens. On the left there, you see the old technology. On the right is the new technology. The new technology means less mechanical breakdowns, 360 degrees worth of coverage. There are taller poles that the sirens are going to be mounted to, 60-foot poles. These 6 sirens are going to cost $200,000. And once this project's done, that means all 16 sirens in Sterling Heights will be replaced with a modern version of a emergency weather siren. This is what we had. This is what a lot of communities have. That is a spinning siren head that actually rotates in a circle, which means if you're not aiming the siren at someone's house, you only hear it when it's aimed at your house, and those motors were constantly braking. The new system, those are 360-degree speaker arrays, which means they transmit in all directions all the time with 0 moving parts. So we should get a lot more longevity out of the system, better coverage, and higher poles. So we're excited about having everything upgraded after this budget year. Programs, a lot of new programs. Returning back to 3 canine units, which we have historically had here for years and years and years. In fact, in the 1970s and 80s, we had 4 dogs for a long time. So we'll be returning to 3 canine units. We have 2 new school resource officer positions, which is exciting. So now all 3 high schools in Sterling Heights are covered with a full-time school officer. The Smart Moves drug program, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Citizens Police Academy is back after almost 10 years of being gone, and a 34% increase in our training funds. As far as the canines go, we're going to be expecting to be hiring 2 new canine handlers and returning to 3 dogs in total, which means purchasing a replacement dog and a new dog, along with Ivy. There's Ivy as a puppy. You guys remember when she came in and said hi to you guys? And there's Ivy on the right at a junior high public demonstration. So she is all grown up, and she is taking over this week. We said goodbye to Blitz in a retirement ceremony last week, and now Ivy is on her own. So she is all grown up. School Resource Officer Program. Henry Ford and Stevenson High School now have a dedicated full-time school resource officer position. All 3 high schools in Sterling Heights are now staffed with a uniformed police officer. That was done through a collaborative effort with Utica Community Schools and Warren Consolidated Schools, and we are sharing the cost 50-50 on those spots. We had a school safety seminar just last month at Henry Ford High School, and you can see in the picture there, it was packed, full house, 250 parents there, and every single one of them was extremely grateful for the work that Utica Schools was doing, the Sterling Heights Police Department, the city of Sterling Heights, to keep their kids safe. Nothing but positive responses, and the parents are very excited about having a full-time officer at the school, to say the least. Smart Moves, if you guys remember the DARE program, during the recession, it was decision programs or bodies. So when we decided bodies was the most important thing, keep police officers here. So a lot of programs had to go goodbye. We didn't have the funding for them. Now we're going to be introducing a program called Smart Moves, and that stands for Skills, Mastery, and Resilience Training. This is done through the Boys and Girls Club of America. It's very similar to the DARE program. It's a 8-week program. All 6th graders in Utica schools and all 5th graders in Warrencon will be taught this program. We're going to actually have the fire department assisting us in one of the lessons as well. And students will learn the harmful effects of drugs and alcohol and proper decision making. So that'll start this fall. Every kid in the city will have it. The CERT program is alive and well. We've done a lot. The CERT program has grown. The membership has grown. This was done back in September last year. This was a full-scale exercise before we tore down the old rec center. We did a mock disaster scenario of a tornado/flood. We had all of our CERT members activated, and we did some extraction, victim recovery, full-scale exercise at the Parks and Rec building before it was actually demolished. So we train with these folks on a regular basis, and it's a very active CERT organization. We're fortunate to have them. Citizens Patrol, again, we've talked about these guys. They drive around the city. They're the eyes and ears for our police officers. Now they have really cool new cars. And they are highly active. They're at all of our public events, Sterling Fest. You'll see them everywhere, from National Night Out. These guys in their bright orange and yellow shirts are out there, and they call and they phone stuff in all day long, every day. So we love having our CERT guys available for us as another resource. And again, out at every community event and outing, they're there. Citizens Police Academy, again, after being gone for 10 years, we put this out on our website. Tremendous response. So we filled the first class last fall with 20 students. They have classroom lecture from all different divisions within our department. This year, Taser International gave us an entire case of cartridges for free. So all of our Citizen Police Academy attendees got to shoot a Taser and learn exactly what that does. They also went to the Troy gun range and fired our service weapon. And they got to see the entire station, including one of our jail cells. And then we have our graduation night. In fact, tomorrow night is the graduation for our second academy class. So now we'll have 40 people that have officially completed the course, and the residents love it. They get to see firsthand what their police department does for them on a daily basis. And another thing near and dear to my heart is recruiting. What is the Sterling Heights Police Department doing to be the most diverse department it can be? I really do believe that your department should reflect the community that it serves. So we are constantly trying to figure out how to make sure that happens. And that starts with recruiting, mentoring programs. And I want to show you a little clip here from a new program we just started, and Channel 4 covered that for us.
Students in Macomb County have a new tool in front of them to help make an important decision on their careers. A website is connecting students with professionals to answer their questions about jobs.
But now the Sterling Heights Police Department is jumping in to help students and maybe recruit officers.
So there are a lot of mentoring programs, but this one is certainly different. One-on-one connection with the police officer, because Sterling Heights Police, they are drastically in need of officers, but they're not the only area.
I love everything about my job.
You usually will have no trouble finding a cop to tell you how much they like their job. And frankly, Officer Tricia Latour doesn't understand why somebody wouldn't like it.
I don't understand it. I feel as if this job is very rewarding on a daily basis.
And that sentiment makes Officer Latour the perfect coach for this, an online virtual coach, a mentor, living inside your computer. The Sterling Heights Police Department has partnered with My Bright Future, connecting students with almost any kind of professional they want. Right now, there's 600 mentors signed up. It's the difference between reading about a job or asking someone, actually doing the job. And for Sterling Heights PD, there's kind of a selfish motivation. They need more officers.
When I took the test in Sterling Heights to become a police officer in 1994, 700 of us showed up at Stevenson High School to take the test. 700. Our last time that we offered the test here in Sterling Heights, we had 88 applicants.
But this is a Macomb County project. Sterling Heights officers will be talking to kids from any school in the county, which could then benefit several police agencies that aren't getting enough applicants.
Some cities are getting 10, 15 applicants, or zero.
And for Officer Latour, this is an opportunity to help students make that career decision, and she will be real with them.
I think it's just something that you can't fake. When someone asks you a question, whether it's, how do you like your job, or should I do it, or you have to be honest and give them real answers.
In Sterling Heights, Nick Monticelli, Local 4.
My Bright Future isn't just for those interested in law enforcement. There are nearly 600 professionals on the site, so students really can ask questions about almost any career.
And then last year, our Chaldean Community Foundation, we have 2 Chaldean officers, Officer Keem and Officer Kashat, along with Officer Leonard. We did a career night there. It was well attended, and again, reaching out to those members of our community to say, hey, we're here, we're looking for police officers who've ever thought of a job in law enforcement. So we are out there doing everything we can to get the most diverse and knowledgeable and educated people to apply here in Sterling Heights and become police officers in Sterling Heights. Building improvements. We're very excited about this. The whole station is buzzing about this project. We have over $6 million in facility improvements. Our police station is 38 years old. It was originally designed as a courthouse, if some of you remember that. The court was on the 2nd floor and we were on the main floor. And then somewhere in the middle, the court got their own building, and then we turned the entire building into a police station. So a lot of our building does not work. We have walls that don't belong. We have doors that go nowhere. So our police department is in desperate need of a facelift, and $6 million is cheaper than building a brand new building, and we can do a lot with that money, fix a lot of problems, and we have a lot of great ideas. From heating, cooling, electrical, plumbing, carpet, furniture, structural improvements, everything will be addressed in this building, and it should be like a brand new police station when we're done. You can see some of the problems here. This is one of our detectives' offices. Electrical outlets hanging out of the wall, drywall crumbling, a lot of moisture issues with the walls, roof. You can see some of the structural problems with some of the retention walls. Again, water issues. Furniture, that shares from 1978, and we have, in my office, I have 2 of those. Those are my office chairs. They are comfortable, I will admit, but they are from 1978. So we want some new furniture. The guys want some new furniture, and we will put it to good use. And again, some of the moisture issues and problems that we've had that we've stopped to this point. So very excited about redoing that police department and getting it back together. And with that, that concludes my presentation. Back to you, Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you. And Mayor, continuing on, as you and the council know, Sterling Heights has become a very diverse community over the years. And when you think of the most successful cities across the country, often a common denominator is a very diverse population. In Sterling Heights, the foreign-born population is about 25%, but what is most interesting is that the median family income among this diverse population is over $60,000. There's no question that diversity has and continues to pay off for Sterling Heights. And for this reason, inclusiveness continues to be an important part of our 2030 vision statement. Community Relations Director Bridget Kozlowski will now discuss the diversity initiatives included in the proposed budget.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, City Council, Mr. Vanderpool, and Mr. Kaszubski. Tonight I'll be talking about the city's latest efforts to promote diversity and inclusion. For decades, Sterling Heights has been focused on celebrating diversity and embracing cultural and ethnic differences among our residents and our community members. In community relations, our staff works with each department to ensure we're accommodating the needs of all residents equally and celebrating our differences such as race, culture, religion, physical ability, and more. Supporting diversity and inclusion encompasses native-born Americans of different races, as well as our new American population. As Chief Dwadzikowski just mentioned, city administration is working every day not only to support the community, but also taking great strides in hiring staff that reflects our diverse community. I'd like to highlight some of our latest efforts as we continue to forge ahead with ensuring Sterling Heights is welcoming and accommodating for all. Sterling Heights has one of the largest foreign-born populations among cities in Michigan at more than 25%. Outside of Macomb and Oakland counties as regions, we are the city with the largest percentage of foreign-born population in Metro Detroit and the state of Michigan based on our population. By far, our largest foreign-born population is from Iraq, with more than 15,000 of our population from this country. We see other countries represented among our foreign-born residents, such as India, Albania, Poland, the Philippines, Bosnia, Canada, and many others. I would also like to point out some of the data at the top of the slide, specifically that 61% of our foreign-born population are naturalized citizens. My counterpart at Welcoming Michigan said this number continues to grow as residents are processed through the proper channels to become Americans, and there are many who are still in the process of becoming U.S. citizens not represented in this number. Additionally, you'll see that only 4.1% of our foreign-born population is unemployed, and the same number is 4.1% right now in the national average. I believe this helps dispel a popular negative stereotype that new Americans aren't working. Instead, it shows our foreign-born population is right on par with the nation overall in terms of employment. One of our biggest ambassadors for celebrating diversity is the city's Ethnic Community Committee. Established 28 years ago in 1990 by a city council resolution, the Ethnic Community Committee serves as ambassadors of diversity and as our first level committee discussion of issues and concerns of the ethnic community in Sterling Heights. The committee initiates programs to promote the city's rich diversity, as well as supports our outreach and involvement. Sterling Heights is an officially designated Welcoming Michigan community. Community Relations regularly collaborates with Welcoming Michigan and its parent organization, Welcoming America, to continue to build immigrant-friendly communities and foster understanding among residents. For example, in February, Community Relations staff attended a day-long training in Clinton Township, hosted by Welcoming America, on the importance of communication tactics in supporting immigrants, refugees, and diversity in general. The session was also attended by staff from Clinton Township, Macomb County, and many others. Community Relations attends quarterly One Macomb meetings, which is the arm of the county that promotes multiculturalism and inclusion efforts. The organization's objectives are first to identify and implement best practices in recruiting, hiring, training of employees, and the delivery of county services. Second, to strengthen Macomb County's economy. And third, to advocate for an inclusive community that values multiculturalism. Just last week, the city of Sterling Heights had more than 20 representatives at the Breakfast of Nation event, including a few of you on City Council. We were there with the Chamber, One Macomb, Welcoming Michigan. We also had members of our fire, police, our city manager, and community relations staff present. SHPD also sent the entire CORE team, or our Community Outreach and Engagement. Community Outreach and Engagement, or CORE, works with community relations to plan outreach, tend to customer service needs, and attend city events, as well as make personal connections in our community. This effort perfectly crosses over into supporting diversity and engagement. For the last 16 years, the Ethnic Community Committee has supported the cultural exchange event run by Community Relations. This event features the food, performances, and displays of dozens of cultures from around Sterling Heights. This year on March 2nd, the event was no exception to the success that we've seen in the past. And for those that attended, know that we are truly at capacity with this event. For 4 hours on a Friday night, we're packed with attendees celebrating the beautiful things that make us all different. We look forward to continuing the event in 2019 at the Senior Center, but hope that we can take the event on the road in 2020 to the new Community Center, where we can see a refresh and a new layout for this fantastic event. Another exciting effort by the Ethnic Community Committee in the last year was reinstating the Diversity Distinction Awards dinner in September. During the economic downturn, the dinner was tabled and the awards were presented at a city council meeting to save funds and resources. In 2017, the committee was able to reestablish the Diversity Distinction Awards dinner thanks to budget from City Council.
On September 21st, the Sterling Heights Ethnic Community Committee held the Diversity Dinner, where they honored members of our community that go above and beyond in championing diversity.
What so proudly we hail.
The city of Sterling Heights is a really diverse city. It has many different communities made up different ethnic groups, religious groups. We're very proud to have this wide diversity. And this is our way to highlight some of the activities and some of the individuals who really are promoting diversity within the city.
With all of City Council in attendance, Mayor Michael Taylor offered opening remarks celebrating the gathering of representatives of our city's culturally and ethnically diverse community.
And isn't it appropriate that we're here gathered for a meal? Many different cultures, people of different ethnicities, people of different religious backgrounds, but what we all know here, no matter what culture you're from, no matter where you're from in the world, if we come together, if we break bread, and we can talk, we can work any differences out that we have. And not only do we discover that we don't have as many differences as we thought, we have much more in common than we really thought. We love this community, we love the diversity in our community, we love the different cultures that we can experience, because we know that when we have a rich cultural diversity like we do in Sterling Heights, it benefits all of us, and we are all better off for it.
Those in attendance were treated to a variety of cultural performances that included song and dance. After dinner, the Diversity Distinction Awards were handed out.
Now what an honor to meet such neat people of a different culture that have come to America and want to be a part of who we are.
Know that you can bring yourself out if you just dare to dream, stand up, and go forward.
It's important for the city to show that people who do promote the diversity are important to us, and we want to honor them, and we want to recognize their activities and their contributions to promote diversity. And that's why I think this dinner is very, very important as a city to show our appreciation and recognition of those who do promote diversity.
America is the greatest country in the world. It is great because of its people. It is great because of its diversity, and you are part of that greatness, and I want to thank you for it, and I wish you a good night.
One of the more emotional events the Ethnic Community Committee supports every year is the naturalization ceremony held during Sterling Fest. This event is held at the library where new Americans approved for citizenship, take the oath of allegiance, and complete the process of becoming a U.S. citizen. These events are open to the public, and if any residents have not personally attended one in the past 8 years, we've been hosting them. I highly recommend. As a natural-born citizen myself, it's only until you see the emotions and patriotism of new Americans, sometimes even their tears, when becoming a U.S. citizen, that you truly remember to value why it's so wonderful to live in America. This event helps the city of Sterling Heights to continue supporting our immigrant population in taking their steps to become citizens of our great nation. I am especially proud of the work Community Relations continues to do with our public safety departments, police and fire, to support their efforts to promote understanding and celebration of diversity. The photo you see here is from our Cones with Core event last May. Community Relations coordinated a discount night at the Dairy Queen at 14 Mile and Ryan, and not only were the owners completely accommodating and happy to support police, we specifically chose this region of the city as one of the more diverse sectors of our population. Having the police there in a positive way, because who doesn't love discounted ice cream, we really believe made a wonderful impact on the 100+ people we saw come through that night and take photos with our police officers. SHPD has also taken huge strides in connecting with our Chaldean population, presenting information at seminars, and working to introduce officers and programming at the Chaldean Community Foundation headquarters. Sterling Heights Fire is also working to increase its efforts to communicate with all residents, and one goal is to go to new residents through their children. An example here is a member of our SHFD staff reading to a classroom of students to break down barriers associated with public safety and continue to make personal connections with our youngest residents. SHPD's core team, as mentioned, does a fantastic job continuing to humanize public safety and build connections we so desire. On a Saturday last month, Community Relations Sue Giolombardo worked closely with One Macomb and Macomb County to coordinate the Be the Change event to recruit future police officers among students from Macomb County high schools and build bridges between police and students. Volunteers participated in role-playing activities that involved police officers as citizens. The event, held at the MCC Public Service Institute, also involved 70 students from Clintondale, Chippewa Valley, Dakota, Henry Ford II, Mount Clemens, and Utica high schools. Instructors from the Institute included Macomb County Sheriff's Office, Sterling Heights Police, as you can see Captain Hopper here, and others present at the event. The next topic I'd like to highlight is language. As mentioned in a previous slide, 16% of Sterling Heights population, or more than 21,000 people, speak English as a second language. That's why it's important for us to continue to focus on language as a form of inclusion. The Sterling Heights Public Library offers a number of resources for those looking to learn a new language, including the Mango Languages System, which is completely free. The program includes more than 70 languages, including English. The public library also has a robust English second language resource collection, complete with test preparation, grammar and pronunciation, learning slang, everyday vocabulary, American cultural tips, and more. To provide our ESL community, or even those with diverse backgrounds, with more resources, the public library also has an international language collection, as well as an international films collection. Community Relations continues to work with both Warren Consolidated and Utica Community Schools to provide adult English Second Language, or ESL, student tours of City Hall, the library, police, and other buildings. The goals of these programs are introducing English Second Language students to the buildings and demystifying government and public safety. These tours allow us to present on a number of topics, including taxes, code enforcement, water billing, refuse, police and fire, and more. These are wonderful ways to get people into our buildings in a comfortable environment and allow them to ask questions directly of those in charge. When it comes to supporting diversity, we would be remiss if we left out supporting the needs of our differently abled population. The Parks and Recreation Department for many years has run an incredible special recreation program led by Rachel Malawa, but I want to highlight some recent efforts supported by Recreating Recreation. All of our parks are ADA compliant, but some now significantly exceed ADA standards. Ramped metal slides are there to aid those with cochlear implants, and wheelchair accessible play equipment is now available. The last exciting effort I'd like to highlight in the way of diversity this year is our Clergy Forum. Held first in March 2018, our staff reached out to every religious organization in the city and invited them to attend a discussion forum. The city was able to present on a number of topics and open up for discussion. We had Catholics, Muslims, Buddhists, Baptists, and many others represented and received excellent feedback. We plan to host our next meeting this fall. Mayor and Council, as you can see, our city continues to make great strides in supporting diversity and inclusion. Community Relations will continue to lead the charge and support the other departments in their efforts as well. I'm proud of the work we do in this area and look forward to continuing to grow and change our efforts as we move forward. Thank you.
And Mayor, just in conclusion on Ms. Kozlowski's report, the city's continued success is in no question due to our strong commitment to diversity and inclusiveness. And as you saw, we're going to continue those efforts over the next fiscal year and thereafter. Our DPW Director, Mike Moore, will now discuss the importance of infrastructure maintenance and how technology is playing an important role. And as he's getting ready, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to thank the entire DPW workforce for their tireless effort in the following areas. First, helping to keep our roads clear this past winter, which was an unusual winter to say the least. Making sure our parks are well maintained, that we have reliable and safe water available for our day-to-day needs. Making sure waste and stormwater systems are working properly almost all the time. Making sure refuse collection services are performed as required. Addressing road maintenance needs and many other day-to-day needs for which we take for granted. Their effort has a major positive impact on our daily lives, and I'm very proud of their effort and most thankful. And now I'd like to introduce our DPW Director, Mike Moore.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, and City Attorney, and all residents at home. Tonight, I'll briefly touch on the 2018 Department of Public Works budget. Just as a brief overview, we'll talk about, give you a brief update on the SAW grant, some water sewer infrastructure, and a trial meter reading system that we're looking at. So if we start with the SAW grant, we have three main components of that, being the CityWorks software, the data collection, and the televising and cleaning of the underground line. So if we jump right into the technology side, CityWorks, we've been talking about it for a long time. Just briefly again, you know, we're getting a little bit further into it and we're getting close to going full tilt on it, and it's really going to help us with our workflow. Right now, we're old school at DPW and we're trying to get out of the Stone Age. Everything right now is paper copies, so if we take in a request, staff writes it down on paper, prints it for the supervisor, supervisor gives it to a staff goes out in the field, completes the job, comes back to the supervisor, he puts his notes on it, gives it back to staff. So very cumbersome, very time consuming. So CityWorks will help us settle out. You can see in these photos here, staff will have the iPads, smartphones out in the field, and they can receive their next work order or email or directions right in the field and move from there. A couple screenshots here from the CityWorks. On the left-hand side, we're always cognizant of the weather in my department, so keep the weather up. We can have notes. Operations Manager Eric Skirta put some notes in there. We had some training recently. On the right-hand side, we got a pie chart just by example of this one I have open here is all the open work orders. So let's say, for example, I click on the blue area storm manholes. It brings down an entire list of all those that are in the system, brings down an entire list of repairs. And you can see here, if you're looking at CityWorks, who had put it in. This is our inspector, Tim Crumley, and he gave it to the supervisor, John Orzell. The date, put some notes in here that this is please repair storm catch basin and road level 5. Level 5 is it needs repair, 10 is the worst, so, you know, 1 isn't bad, and 10 would be by far the worst, so level 5. So just some notes, got the address up here, so a lot of good tracking program. And then let's say, for example, this wouldn't be This happens to be those that are in the computer or in the software program for storm catch basin rehab. But for conversation, let's say this is properties that maybe need grass cutting or something of that nature. So the staff member can, maybe start down here in this cluster, and once he's completed, he'll log on to his iPad, close it out, and CityWorks will automatically route him to the next one, then the next one, then the next one, so on and so forth. So very efficient software program. Step 2 of the SAW grant is location of assets, and that includes 475 miles of sanitary main, 750 miles of storm, and 670 miles of water main. Not only finding and locating all those, also included, as you may have seen in the community or received some phone calls of these pink dots on these structures. What in the world is that? Well, that means that that asset was located. So AEW, our contracting company, they're out there locating all these different assets. This here happens to be some underground water main with some valves. So all these items are tracked, a hydrant, and they're not only determining GPS locations of where they're at, but they're also looking through our scrolls of files of when it was installed, the diameter of pipe, the material of pipe, the last time it was repaired. So we will now have all this all-encompassing data in the CityWorks program. And then lastly but not least, once we have all this data and the GIS map is updated, you will soon have in front of you recommendation to for AEW to have project oversight of the televising and cleaning of said underground sanitary pipes. So AEW would oversee the project, we'd hire a contractor, and at that point, they would be reviewing the video that's been completed by the contractor and providing recommendations to the DPW of pipes they find that need some repair. So there should be a short video here. I'll skip through it so you don't have to watch the whole video, but it's a clean video. I kept it clean. This is a sanitary pipe. Some of them are much dirtier, if you can imagine, but this is what we want to see when we have the televising going on, which we're going to have a lot of televising over the next couple of years. This is a good pipe, nice, clean, no cracks, nothing to be concerned about, so we would then move on to the next. Get out of this thing here. Oh. Hold on one moment, lost, oh, it closed down, so bear with me, we'll open it back up. That video must have closed something down real quick, so we'll get back into the SAW grant here in a moment. Okay, here we go. You're anxiously waiting, bear with me. Okay, so that's the sanitary side of the SAW grant, so let's move on to something a bit easier and nicer, water infrastructure. Let's get into that. So recently we had a water reliability study that we worked closely with a consulting company we often use, HRC. And with the water reliability study, they took a look at a lot of different things around our community, how we're supplying water, the cleanliness of water, how we're testing it, things of that nature. They also look at our emergency response plan, and if you remember in November 17 when we had that Van Dyke water main break, we actually broke open this emergency response plan that's prepared by the water supervisor, Jim Nichols. And in this emergency response plan is a list of numbers, emergency contacts, DEQ, the county, who to call, who not to call, what things to do, how to inform the public. So we broke this open, worked out fantastic. Crews performed exceptionally well under pressure. Also included in this study, as mentioned, is how we're testing our water, and this is tested monthly by GLWA, so this item was submitted to the DEQ and approved. Another recent item, worked closely with HRC, is a water asset management plan. In this plan, it actually looks at the asset inventory on the water side, so we kind of spoke about the SAW grant, which looks at the storm sanitary side. We had our own city funding that looked at the assets on the water side. And this study is also the criticality of assets or their condition, level of service the city wants to provide, and some recommended capital improvements. As you can see here, in green and in red and in yellow were some improvements to 16, 20, and 24-inch water main throughout the city back since 2002. And the study showed that a handful of recommended improvements moving forward would be in red and black, and these were 12 and 16-inch water main that would improve fire flow in commercial areas. So no recommendations for residential or industrial sections. So valve maintenance. Last year, it was the first year we had some additional funding for contracted help to repair underground valves, and we completed 300 of just shy of 7,000 valves. We've received increased funding this year, and we're hoping to complete an additional 600 plus 12 butterfly and cone valves, which was the valve that had broke on Van Dyke. So you ask yourself after looking at that picture, well, what in the world is a valve? Well, let me explain to you here. We get our fresh drinking water from GLWA, as you can see in this light blue pipe. From there, we have 11 master meters that connect to the city, which is where we generate how much water we use. From there, it's our city main and your service line to your home. So I couldn't find the most appropriate picture. I thought this would be the easiest. So let's just assume there's a water main break at this said yellow house here. If there was this valve we're performing these maintenances on right here, we could simply drive in here, shut the valve down. One home is without water. That's it. Couple-hour repair for the water main break. No big deal. The problem is the valves underground are so old and past their useful life that we can't just shut this valve down. This one doesn't work. So we go further north. This valve doesn't work here, say if there was one, and again here. So by the time we get to this valve, we're now shutting down home 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. So the more valve maintenance we do underground, the quicker and faster we can turn the water off and make the repairs, and therefore the less residents are affected during water main breaks. If you didn't know, there is a booster station in the city which boosts the pressure for the higher elevation area of the city. Those are your 5 pumps at the booster station. It is located in the northwest section of the city and boosts pressure to approximately that red area there. We recently had some improvements to the booster station. On the left-hand side, you can see before. On the right-hand side is after. We put in a bypass valve, which allows staff to perform maintenance on the pumps without taking this high-pressure area offline. Here is SCADA software, which essentially is software that myself and others on the team have the ability to access over the internet that shows us what's going on at the booster station. What pumps are on, what pumps are off, is there any alarms, what is the pressure? We've had incidents where we've received a phone call from the county or from GLWA that they heard of no pressure. We run up there, everything's fine. So prior to this software, we didn't know until we made a daily inspection up there of what was going on. Now we have the ability wirelessly to determine what's going on at the booster station. And lastly, the picture on the left kind of looks like an Apollo 13 picture with Tom Hanks. That's not what that is. That was the actual booster station PLC. That's a programmable logic computer, which essentially is the brain of this whole station. Tells it when to turn on, when to turn off, how to adjust the pressure. Picture on the right, a bit more updated. So booster station is looking great. Okay, storm and sewer infrastructure. Let's get into it. Catch basins. Everybody sees these catch basins all the time. Look at these things. We repaired 200 of them last year with a contractor, 100 with our own staff. So we got 300 done out of a list of 800. So it's a long battle for us, but we're chipping away at it really good. Look, there's another pink dot, so we found that one. The entire roadway is just terrible condition. So this is after the staff gets in there, repairs that catch basin, and pours some new concrete. So this is a long battle we're fighting, but we're fighting it hard, and we're getting a good amount of them done every year. Retention ponds. The county is also doing the same thing we're doing. We're trying to also get the stormwater out of there. So if we get the catch basins fixed, we can drain the stormwater off the roadways, get it down to the retention pond, therefore through a tributary into a creek, into the river, into the lake. Problem is you can see these choke points here. We've got phragmites throughout the city. These invasive species choking for a choke point of the water. They can't get through. A lot of different debris. So new piece of equipment we received last year, a cat excavator. You can see some of the material we're pulling out of this retention pond so the water can flow from the street into here and out of the retention pond. Good cutting head we have on the cat, start cutting some of the stuff down. We're also working with a contractor to spray said phragmites and cut them down in different areas, and just some more brush and debris that's just choking the water from leaving. Cleaning and televising, we spoke about it briefly. On the right-hand side, the top picture, you'll see what the actual jet nozzle looks like. It's not when this is in the line, when the water pressure goes forward that it cleans the line. It's actually when it's pulled backwards, as you can see from the top and below picture, it cleans the inner circumference of the pipe when it's pulled backwards. That middle photo here is the different bullets that the operator can choose pending what the concern is. So if you look at the picture on the left, cracked pipe, bottom left, root intrusion causing a backup. Another one here, this is why you do not dump fats, oils, and greases down your sink or down the drain. It ends up just building up and causing a blockage. Those items should be cooled, stored in a coffee can and a Ziploc bag, and thrown in a garbage. And another one of root intrusion, and that's why Department of Public Works determines what trees are allowed in the right-of-way, because certain said trees find every little crack in a pipe and go towards it for a water source. So last but not least, meter reading system. Our old system here is far past its useful life. You can see a couple of the blue and white meters here. Those are meters that were installed in the 1960s. And that old contraption, you're wondering what that is in the upper right-hand corner. That's when you see my part-time staff come to your house and they're checking for a meter read. Those guns, those ARB boxes, they don't make them anymore. They don't repair them anymore. So we're kind of on a limited time to continue to make sure we get these accurate reads. Therefore, Department of Public Works has been searching into new meter technology. The meter we kind of got our eye on right now is a wireless meter, all-encompassing meter, and it would provide my staff with a whole lots of great information to help diagnose and make sure these things are always reading accurately. It would send us information of meters that aren't getting a read, meters that are reading too high. We can alert residents and all sorts of great information. One of the biggest benefits of said new meter is residents can monitor it themselves too. So there's apps for these new meters that if you want to monitor the daily usage, this way it's a hot summer, you're irrigating your lawn and you don't get a bill 3 months after you're done irrigating your lawn. You can actually set alarms, set notifications if you want to determine how much water to use at a certain time, so you can budget more accordingly and not get hit with a big bill at the end of the season. So in short, that's the presentation for Department of Public Works. Mr. Vanderpool.
It really is fascinating when you think of the infrastructure, the vast network of infrastructure under our feet, everything from gas lines, water lines, sewer line, electric lines, cable lines. It really is impressive and very complicated. And it's good to know we have these complex maintenance schedules and software, and we're making the necessary repairs and devoting millions of dollars to this infrastructure every year. And the other utilities are doing that as well. DTE's making millions of dollars of improvements to their infrastructure in Sterling Heights. Today we met with Consumers Power, and they're making $70 million in various gas line improvements underground throughout Sterling Heights and across the region. So there is a lot going on with infrastructure, and it is always a challenge to keep up, but we're doing the best we can, as you can see. Moving on, the voters approved the Recreating Recreation Initiative in 2016, and we have been hard at work implementing the many projects under the initiative. Like diversity, quality of life ranks very high in communities that are considered most desirable. We've had great parks and facilities, but after 50 years, it was time for a major investment in the city's future. In case you haven't heard enough from our next speaker with his countless presentations over the past couple of years, Parks and Recreation Director Kyle Langlois is back and will now provide an update on all the progress that we're making to date.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, all those tuning in here live and over the airwaves as well. It's my honor to be here this evening in order to give a brief look at the Parks and Recreation Department for the upcoming fiscal year. Fiscal year 2018-2019 is shaping up to be another exciting year of growth for the Parks and Recreation Department, both in terms of programs and facilities. So let's take a look at both aspects. As we have discussed many times in the past, programming has been the lifeblood of the Parks and Recreation Department, with a strong focus on providing value-driven recreation options at affordable price points. Next fiscal year will not only see a continuation of current programs, but also the introduction of new programs across our department spectrum. We will start with youth and families at the Nature Center. Last year, we announced that the department would be the recipient of grant-funded archery equipment courtesy of the Michigan Recreation and Park Association, USA Archery, and the Easton Foundation. In total, close to $20,000 of equipment has been received, along with certification classes for some of the Nature Center staff. While we have spent the last year promoting the courses and offering them on a trial basis, we are now positioned to officially bring archery to the residents of Sterling Heights. Introductory and advanced level courses will be available multiple days a week for those seeking to learn the sport of archery. In addition to the consistent class offerings, archery will also be available as extra options for school field trips, scout programs, and department events. One of the events that will showcase archery is the Great Outdoor Backyard Campout, which is making a return after being a budgetary sacrifice just a few years back. Campers can expect to be treated to a family-friendly atmosphere right in their own quote-unquote backyard. Activities will include archery, a campfire, a night hike, personal recreation time, and an opportunity to canoe or kayak the Clinton River. All activities, with the exception of the paddle trip, are included in the registration fee. Registration is currently ongoing and is expected to sell out, so don't delay in getting a campsite for you and your family. Additional new programming can be found at the Senior Center in the form of fitness classes for our residents over 50. Share Yoga is a new program being offered for people that are looking for the benefits of yoga without having to get up and down from the ground. The classes have been tested this year on a limited basis with great success. We are excited to officially add them to our catalog in the 2018-2019 fiscal year and beyond, furthering our efforts to keep our 50 and over population living a healthy, longer life. It is expected that we will see close to 1,000 individual attendances in chair yoga for this coming year. We also encourage our residents to check out the Senior News, the Sterling Heights Magazine, and all the other publications that the department puts out so that they can find ways to use our programs and facilities to improve physical and mental health throughout the year, no matter how old you are. Speaking of the Senior Center, it is a great place to start our update on the progress of recreating recreation throughout the city. But before we get to that, I must say that year one has been a success, with a plethora of projects getting underway and some even being completed to date. Year one can be summed up well with this video that was compiled by our talented Sterling Heights TV.
I see this as an opportunity.
It's good to see what our options are. That's what this effort is all about.
Giving residents the opportunity to come out and voice their opinion on what they would like to see.
For them to expand the recreation area for everybody in the city, that's a wonderful thing.
We have to support new things coming into the city because we want to attract new families.
If you want to be a community that is progressive, you need to make improvements. You cannot remain stagnant and expect people to just come to Sterling Heights and live.
I'm looking forward to the items that are geared towards my kids. I want them to get outside, I want them to experience, I want them to be in nature and experience all the world has to offer. So getting my kids to have the experience is the most important thing for my wife and I. We want them to go out, meet new people, we want them to be able to be outside in this wonderful city and make sure that they experience everything Sterling Heights has to offer.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Today we're breaking ground on one of the biggest transformative projects in Sterling Heights history. We are completely redoing Dodge Park here. We're going to get rid of this rec center behind me, build a new rec center, and we're going to transform this park into something that I think is going to be fantastic.
Let's begin now.
This park is going to be amazing. The amount of hills, transitions. I'm so excited about it, but I think I want to find a place to work around here just so I can take lunch here.
Now, if that video doesn't get you excited about what has transpired so far, or pique your interest for what is yet to come, I'm not quite sure what will, but maybe some of the following information may help. Getting back to the senior center, we are getting ready to open one of the new facilities associated with this millage on May 30th. Good-looking fellow over there on the screen. In conjunction with National Senior Health and Fitness Day, we will be cutting the ribbon on the new exercise room on the second floor of the Senior Active Life Center. This new amenity is home to 5 pieces of low-impact aerobic exercise equipment. Even you can do it in a shirt and tie if you need to. So, headlined by 2 new step training machines. These machines are most commonly found in physical therapy and rehabilitation centers, making them a perfect choice for this facility. The facility will be open during regular operating hours and will not include an additional user fee for residents over the standard drop-in fee of 25 cents. This amenity has been frequently requested over the years, and we are thrilled to finally be in a position to provide this equipment that will undoubtedly improve the health and wellness of our 50 and older population. Also beginning this fall, at the Senior Center is the construction of the indoor bocce ball court, which will extend the playing season from the warm months to year-round. Construction completion is expected for early 2019. Just one item of note, this was the original design that we put forth when we were going through the process of educating the community on recreating recreation. The final design, we are in the process of designing what the actual building will look like, so as we get closer to a finished design, we will share that with everybody. Staying close to the Senior Center, I'm happy to report that the reconstruction of Dodge Park is in full gear, with the projected open date of June 28. I have had the privilege to see this amazing transformation happen before my eyes, and I am confident that this Central Park will be a pride point in the community for years to come. Not surprising, though, is that one of the most frequently asked questions about Dodge Park is how we are maintaining the ice for the refrigerated ice rink in the winter months. And yes, you heard it here first from Ms. Varney. We are going to have a real Zamboni. The department is working with the supplier and installer of our rink, Everything Ice, to secure a high-quality, used ice resurfacing machine. With the indoor ice rink market turning to electric units to protect indoor air quality, open-air applications like ours will benefit from newer propane models hitting the resale market at a substantial cost reduction. Coupled with the expected time frame of operation, a used model becomes a viable option that should remain in service for many years to come. I'd also like to take this opportunity to share a quick public service announcement, and that we are looking for a number of new part-time employees to help us operate the new facilities and the equipment like the Zamboni. Available positions will be posted online, and anyone interested with questions can contact the Parks and Recreation Department. Before moving on from Dodge Park, though, it is also important to note that the park is being constructed with specific materials that will hold up to the intense use and decrease the maintenance needs of our city DPW on an annual basis. These improvements will also save significant funds during the implementation of special events throughout the year. And while the Dodge Park project is finishing up in June, many new projects will just be getting started, headlined by the start of the construction of the new 97,000 square foot community center. With an anticipated grand opening date of December 2019, the Parks and Recreation Department is already planning ways to bring new, innovative programming to our residents and to further our goal of being the resource that our community demands. Other projects getting started around the city this spring include improvements at College Park, Baumgartner Park, J.C. Park, Arlingdale Park, Franklin Park, Avis Park, and Delia Park, including the opening of the long-awaited dog park later this year. Since we would be here all night if I ran down the entire list of what is included with the upcoming renovations, I do invite everyone to visit myshpr.net and click on the Recreating Recreation tab to see the specific updates and information on the remaining projects. So much going on in our parks, I would once again like to thank all of our residents for their patience as we work diligently to complete all of the projects associated with Recreating Recreation. We know that closing down parks and other amenities for construction interferes with life, but we are confident that it will all be worth it once everything is done. And whether you like to frequent just your favorite neighborhood park or tour all of the parks around the city, the Parks and Recreation Department will be significantly increasing the information that can be found online regarding the parks. First, we will be updating the facilities page found on our website, again, myshpr.net. In the past, we've had one photo of each park. Oftentimes, that was just the entrance sign. We will be putting new pictures of all of the new park amenities in one of every amenity that we have in the park, so that way, as our residents go to our park page and try to see what's available in each park, they'll get a great feel for what each park has to offer. In addition, we will be linking up to an interactive park finder map that can be accessed online via computer, tablet, or smartphone. This new map is user-friendly, shows how each park fits into the citywide park system, as well as an even larger regional network of parks, and provides directions to get to each park. This new online map has just been rolled out by SEMCOG and will be a great resource for our residents and community visitors. We will be working with SEMCOG to make certain all information is accurate and up to date. The phone app is available for Android and Apple devices, and the picture on the screen is an actual screenshot of the city of Sterling Heights and the green spaces that can be found within our borders. Not only is this great for our residents to access a new park that they've never been to in our city, but is also a handy tool for anyone traveling anywhere inside Southeast Michigan. In closing, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to once again share some insight as to what fiscal year 2018-2019 has in store for the Parks and Recreation Department. Year 2 of recreating recreation and a continued effort to increase and enhance quality of life programming for our residents takes center stage for this coming year and will further prove why Sterling Heights is a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
And Mayor, that concludes our presentations this evening. Needless to say, you can see from our first two budget hearings that there are many exciting initiatives in the proposed budget, and needless to say, it is going to be a really busy year coming up. But we're available now to address any questions or comments that the audience or City Council may have.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Charles, would you like to speak?
Charles Jefferson, Sterling Heights. Rob, Dan, whichever one of you down there, get a nice shot of the audience. People who are out there in the city, this is the time for you to come down here and voice your concerns on some things like the water department. Mr. Moore didn't explain to us how much those new meters were going to cost. Is it going to cost the residents or a fee to have those put onto your house, or how you guys want to handle that department? I don't know. My next question, I don't know if it go out to Kyle or the chief, but will there be a officer at the splash pad watching the children, watching people, other children? How is the chief going to handle drones? Not his own drone, but other people's drones flying over the splash pad. We do have people out there that are that way. So I don't know if that goes out to how much that person is going to cost us. Since the chief is here tonight and we've been speaking about diversity, the question could arise, did he investigate Jeff Garrity, and how come Jeff Garrity wasn't arrested for his actions? There's no way Mayor Taylor could say he preaches diversity and still have that guy sitting on the planning commission. There's no way. So I would like the chief to come up and ask that question and ask him, well, how come he didn't get back with this resident when this resident reported that to the police? And then another thing, over there on at the roundabout going west, you guys got the barrels up, but the potholes are really on the other side where the barrels aren't. And you have to drive your car halfway through and then just miss the turnaround. So I want to know if we can get that handled. And again, all you people who decide to stay home tonight, you need to be out here, because once stuff goes down, it gets hard to change. So Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council, the next item on our agenda tonight is the budget amendments. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on budget amendments? Not, Council, are there any budget amendments?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
I would like to make my budget amendment now,
Okay.
if that's okay. Move to increase the 2018-19 proposed budget by $232,600 and reduce the contribution to general fund reserves by $62,600 to hire 2 additional police officers to replace the 2 officers assigned as school resource officers at Henry Ford II High School and Stevenson High School.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. How do we normally do this? Would we take all the amendments and speak on them at the same time? Do we need to vote on this amendment specifically? Okay, so we'll take discussion on this amendment. Mrs. Koski, anything?
I'm very pleased that we are doing this. I think this is a great partnership that we have with the schools, and this is going to benefit all of our students.
I agree. Mrs. Schmidt?
I echo Mrs. Koski's sentiments. I think it's long awaited that Utica Community Schools came on board with this. I see how beneficial it is at Sterling Heights High School and am in total agreement.
Council, any other discussion on this amendment?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Radke?
I'm just happy that we're adding 2 police officers to our police force. I think we can have more officers. I'm very happy with this.
Council, anyone else? If not, we'll vote on this budget amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there anyone else who would like to offer up a budget amendment at this time? If not, I'd open it up to anybody on council who'd like to address any of the department heads or make any comments about the presentations tonight.
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Koski.
I am truly impressed by the presentations of this year's budget. I don't think I've ever sat through budget presentations quite like this, and you all did such a fantastic job. Budget is not fun, but this has had so much information in the presentations and the new things that Sterling Heights is doing. The information that is being made available to the residents of Sterling Heights is truly amazing and greatly appreciated. I have a couple questions because you're doing things that really piqued my interest. Today, I looked out the front window and I saw this gentleman in this yellow shirt walking around the neighbor across the street's house, and then the next thing I see, he's in their backyard with this long pole and something on the end of it. And I said, is that a water meter fellow reading somebody else's meter from my neighbor's backyard? So through the chair to Mr. Moore, can you talk a little bit more about those meters, the new ones that are coming in? That really impressed me.
Mr. Moore.
Sure. As far as the gentleman you've seen, I'm not quite sure what that was. I'm not too sure what that fellow was up to. That's not how we read meters. But yeah, I guess as far as the meters go, it's still in its infancy. We have a lot of discussions yet to take place. So as far as cost, that's to be determined yet. But some of the information I can tell you is, as mentioned earlier, they're definitely outdated. They're past their useful life. And we're looking at approximately, for all the residences, about 40,000 meters. So it's nothing that DPW could do by itself. That would definitely be the need of assistance from a contractor with a huge public outreach program, because we would then be entering everyone's home if we did go that path.
But we will be hearing more information about these meters. You also mentioned about the cleaning of the drains, the sewers, and so on, and reminded all of us not to pour that grease from cooking those greasy hamburgers down the drain and What happens if husband does it? How do you clean your drain? What kind of advice?
I don't really like that implication, Mrs. Koski, but Mr. Moore.
You know, I think the best thing to do is just kind of proactively try not to. You know, what we do at home is we let everything cool down, then we scrape it into, you know, a Ziploc or a coffee can or milk jug, put the cap on it, throw it in the garbage. That's never an issue. If it's already past that point and, you know, the message got to the husband too late, I don't know of the appropriate, you know, things to pour down the drain, but I'm sure there's plenty of commercial products that you could use that somewhat work for that grease buildup, or a worst case scenario of licensed plumber to take care of some of that stuff.
Well, I heard that you could use, what is it, vinegar and baking soda, but I could never remember what the portions were.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate to give everybody a good idea of how to mix it up and make some kind of Molotov cocktail of their own, so I don't know quite what the portions are. But I agree. I've heard kind of the same type of thing, pour it down the drain, bubbles up, eats the grease, but I don't know, might be a good YouTube search.
I was going to say, if you find it, you can throw that on your presentation. Well, I have to say, you're doing some mighty wonderful things over there in that department, and I think all the residents are going to benefit from your hard work. And GLWA, any other comments in regard to the work that they're doing, the fact that our cost is down, what is it, 7.4%? Any other comment on that?
As far as the cost, again, that was due to the renegotiation of the contract. GLWA sets, again, they have fixed cost, and they use what's called the max day and the peak hour to distribute those fixed costs. So by us reducing those numbers in our contract, our percentage of that fixed cost went down for this year. A third of the communities are renegotiated each year. This was our year, so we benefited from that reduction.
So that helped a little bit.
Yep, it helped a little bit. I mean, again, you know, of course, I was hoping for a 0 rate increase, but I was pretty happy with the 3.9. You know, again, it was the lowest rate increase in 10 years, and it allows us to hopefully start building up our fund balance again, you know, that had been severely reduced over the past 10 years from 30 million to just over 10 million, 12 million. And that's the funds that, if that's built up enough, that's the funds we can use for infrastructure improvements, meter replacement projects. But if we don't have that fund balance, then we have to come up with other methods. So it's really important to turn around that negative trend that was, you know, really due to, again, the economy not wanting to increase rates on our residents too much. And also the overall, throughout the whole GLWA system, people are using less water. So, you know, in the prior years, we would use a 3-year average, which was a normal thing to estimate how much water, then, you know, allocate the rates, that $31 million of fixed costs. And if people didn't use that much water, we lost money. So we've got the usage down to, I think, what's a reasonable amount. And going forward, hopefully we can start increasing that fund balance again so that we can have money set aside for these improvements.
I remember how important that was. I remember the days where we didn't even think about raising water rates because we depended on that fund. Thank you very much. One other question to the police department. Chief, I'd like to say you're doing a fantastic job over there. Some of the programs that you have come up with are really fantastic, and you're heading in the direction that I was always hoping that our department would go in. Comment in regard to My Bright Future. That is such a fantastic program. I know you and I have talked a few times about let's prepare our police officers of the future, and it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing there. Can you add any more to that? Any more information as to what's going on there?
Yeah, it's a great program. If you're a high school senior and you're thinking, should I be a police officer? You could Google it. You could watch some YouTube videos. But now you can actually click on the website, register, and a police officer will call you back and email you. And literally, you can come to the station and sit down with them and figure out exactly how many credits do I need at college, what should those credits be in, how long is the police academy, how much does it cost, how much does a police officer make, when can you retire, what are the benefits, and what can I do when I get to the police department, the different divisions, whether it's patrol, detective bureau, K-9 officer, SWAT team member, all that stuff, literally one-on-one with a police officer. I never had that option when I was in high school. We would see our guidance counselor. I remember taking a test, and you answered all these random questions, said you'd be a great plumber, and that would be your career occupation. They would just give you this list of jobs you'd be qualified for. That was it. And they give you your printed sheet, and out the door you went. But now you get to talk to somebody, and it's not only law enforcement. There is 600 career professionals on site. You want to be a budget director, Ms. Varney, they can talk to someone in that field, an engineer, you name it. There's professionals on that website that will literally mentor you to figure out if you want to do that job. It's a fantastic program. We have 12 officers signed up, and they're mentoring right now as we speak.
That is fantastic. Great job there. And I want to say thank you for 3 K-9s. And can I ask when the other 2 are going to be hired?
In the next month, we're going to be looking to purchase the dogs. We need 2 dogs, and then we need to post the position. I already have just random visits in my office all day long and saying, Chief, what's going on with the dogs? And I love dogs. I've always loved dogs. And so I have a lot of guys dropping hints that they'd love to be a dog, a canine handler. So there's going to be no shortage of candidates, to say the least. So we'll post that in the next month or so, and we're going to have a lot of interest. A lot of guys want that job.
Well, that is really fantastic. Thank you very much. Anything else that you would like to add? I'm impressed with the drone mapping of a crash site. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a very serious accident last night. A Macomb County Sheriff deputy was struck on a motorcycle, and he's in critical condition. Our thoughts and prayers go out to him, his family, and the Macomb County Sheriff's Office. But this happens all the time in Sterling Heights, fatal accidents, serious injury accidents. So with this drone, literally, we can have that scene cleaned up in half the time. I've been on many, many crash scenes where we thought we had the roadway blocked with fire trucks and police cars, and people have literally drove across the grass into the middle of our crash scene and almost hit police officers as we're investigating someone being hit. So now the sooner we get that roadway open, the better, and this drone's going to make it much, much easier, not only on the crash side, but tactical situations too. I don't have to put somebody's life in danger. I can send this drone to do some of the dirty work. So we're excited.
One last question. In regard to the skate park, I know that we have lights there. Is there any thought about putting any kind of security cameras up there just to maybe let people know they better behave when they're using the skate park?
Yeah, I know information technology is going through the whole camera system throughout the city and all campuses, all buildings. So that might be one of the places to put an outdoor camera. We have them obviously around our city buildings, the police department. So it would not be that difficult to have a camera placed in that general vicinity. And we know it's going to be, that skate park is already so busy. We haven't even got to our first summer. So the kids are going to be out there literally from dusk to dawn. And probably not a bad idea for a camera placement, but we'll definitely look into it.
You're doing a fantastic job. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Koski. Anyone else like to speak, Council? Mrs.
Mayor Taylor, thank you. I just have a few comments. First of all, in reference to our water rate, and it's kind of tongue in cheek, but Ms. Varney, this is your first budget with us, and it's the lowest water rate increase in 10 years. So kudos to you. We thought we had a good budget director before. I think maybe we did okay. It's troublesome to me that 7.1% increase in that debt service, and it's not ours, it's that sinkhole. It's troublesome, and I think that's why it's important to members of this council to really pursue some of that back. It's a big amount. So And through the chair, well, Chief, since you're sitting there, first of all, the Smart Moves program, so delighted to have something like that back in place. I think in today's day and age, kids need to learn that there are going to be consequences to stupid things. And they don't think about it. So the more that we talk to them about it, hopefully it sinks in and there's less issues with that. I think that's fantastic. And I think the age of 6th and 5th graders is spot on. Mm-hmm. Also, regarding the Michigan Bright Futures, I think that's phenomenal. I don't know how we got hooked up with that, but I think that is, it's a great thing for us to be involved in, and I appreciate the officers that are stepping up to help with that program. As far as Mrs. Koski's puppies, what's the process that to purchase the dogs? Where do we go? What do we do? How do we pick them?
Yeah, I was just talking to Rich Hines, who is nationally known as a canine handler. Mm-hmm. He's raised our dogs, all of our dogs, trained all of our dogs. So I was just talking to him, and he has a certain kennel that he likes. I think it was in Pennsylvania that he loves, with a certain breed of dog, a certain breeder that he absolutely loves. So he's been keeping an eye on that kennel for any new puppies because he really likes the caliber of the training, the dogs that they produce there out of that kennel. So we kind of have a short list of breeders that we would actually go and purchase our dogs from because we want to make sure we get a good dog because that dog could serve for 10 years. You don't want a dog that doesn't produce. So we already have an eye on some areas where we're going to purchase these dogs from. Very good, very good. And then through the chair to Mr. Moore, I just have a statement. You were talking about the catch basin, the manhole covers. There's a manhole cover on Maple Lane just north of the bridge, north of 14 Mile, right in front of the Friendly Storage, that is dangerous. There is a huge hole surrounding it, and somebody is gonna, it's worse than just a pothole. So if we could just look at that. Your department always, you know, I see them above and beyond all the time in any weather and never complaining. Actually, I do have a question about the meters. I'm sorry. So you talked about a pilot program for these water meters. Have we started the pilot program?
Mr. Moore.
No, we have not. We have not started the pilot program. We were seeking the funding. We were approved for the funding in this budget, so we are going to now pursue that. We've already brought in a couple vendors where we've had the conversations. We just now want to do some testing. We've got our eye on, I think, the one we want. So if and when that is the meter we choose the pilot program for, just by way of a little bit of reference, we would look at, you know, purchasing, say, 100 meters and then put them in some random homes and then just monitor them for 6 months to a year.
Okay, that was my next question. How many would be part of that pilot program? And how many meter readers do we have?
We have currently 4 part-time meter readers.
And hopefully we could put them to use someplace else if we eliminate their positions because this is all going to be computerized. I would hate to see us lose some help in that department. They're always looking for extra hands. So that would be my hope in the future for those folks. Glad to see the sewer inspections and the cameras. We're doing a good job being diligent about our infrastructure. And all the valve replacements, I think, you know, we're spot on top of things. So I appreciate that. And that's it for you, Mr. Moore. Then through the chair to Mr. Langless, and I just have one quick question about the Great Outdoor Campout. Are the tents provided, or do families need to provide their own tents?
Mr. Langless.
Yep, families do need to provide their own tents. This is basically an opportunity for either those who like to camp or maybe those who are just kind of dipping their toe in the water of what camping's all about, the opportunity for them to bring their tent, set their tent up no matter what the weather is, take it down at the end of the event, and it really, you know, brings the family together to provide them the camping experience, and they don't have to drive out of their own city.
And you talked about it being a sellout. How many is your max number?
We can take about 60 campsites.
Okay. Okay, so many exciting things going on in Parks and Rec. As far as the dog park, it's going to be at Delia, correct? Where approximately in Delia? Behind in the second parking lot in that area, by the soccer fields, or where is it going to be?
The dog park is going to go off the Ryan Road entrance by the tennis courts, actually. So we will be developing this summer our full plan out there, which will incorporate the tennis courts. We will also be including some soccer fields in that area, and then the just over 2 acres of dog park that will be out there. We're in the process. We just received approval to go ahead and spend the money to put in a parking lot there, so we will have a true hard surface parking lot, which will accommodate all of those features, and also part of that plan will include a restroom facility to accommodate all the users of that section of the park.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, thank you everyone for your presentations. Community relations, I don't think any of our departments could function without you guys and your input and help into everything that we all do. So I appreciate all of you as well. And it's nice. I've been through some really dark budgets, and it's kind of nice to have everything upbeat and some exciting programs coming up. So thank you very much. I have nothing further.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Anyone else, council? Mrs. Zarko.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. First of all, I want to thank everybody, all the directors and everybody involved in presenting this budget, because I have to agree it's great to see what we're doing. But the biggest thank you would be to the residents, because they had the foresight to, you know, vote on a couple of the ballot proposals that we had, and without that we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now. So I can't thank the residents enough, because they really helped put this budget in place. So I have comments. I don't have a lot of questions. For the police department, I'm really impressed with the way we're doing the replacement vehicles, because for a while we didn't have the money to replace them. And now we're keeping up with that, and it really is secular, so it really does help to keep that movement going. And the fact that we do use them afterwards is very helpful. The drone, I think, is going to be very helpful in a lot of the investigations that you do. The Smart Moves program, we mentioned that we had to cut it, or the DARE program we had to cut at the time we were making our budget cuts. But it's only fair to say that it wasn't just on our end that we had to make the cuts. With the changes in education, the schools couldn't give us the minutes that were needed for this, because they needed that for curriculum. So it went both ways, but I'm certainly glad that they're on board with, you know, bringing in a new program. The CERT, you can't beat the CERT program. Those guys are awesome. They are everywhere, and they're helpful, and they're friendly, and they don't overreact. They know exactly what to do, and they know what their place is, and certainly when it gets to something over their head, they know who to call for help. I'm glad we decided that the police academy is being successful, and I know that we think we only have one in this budget, but if there ever comes a time where we need a second class in the same fiscal year, if you'd come to us and let's see what we can do maybe at the adjustment in December of our budget, we'd certainly be willing to do that, because I think it is a good program. Community relations, ethnic diversity, I think, is where our focus has been for a while, is to make everybody feel inclusive, and I know that we're working in the right direction there. And working with public safety on some of the programs that we have certainly has been beneficial, not only to that department, but your department, but to the entire city. I had the opportunity to attend the clergy forum. I thought it was very enlightening, and I can see where, when I saw the members of different communities working together even that morning, I can see where it's going to be very beneficial in the future. The only thing is I know that on their busy schedule, they only wanted to meet twice a year. I really wish they would have decided to do 4 times a year, because they'll forget who's in charge every 6 months. So now we're going to go to DPW, and I'm going to have to mention the same thing that Mrs. Koski did about somebody being in the neighborhood, in my neighborhood, it was a little black box meter on a pole. The gentleman was probably I want to say between 5'10" and 6 feet. The pole was at least 6 feet long, and he was walking up and down the street. Actually, I don't know what, I just thought it was some kind of monitoring. So through the chair to Mr. Moore, if you have an idea of what this could be, that would help all of us.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, that was probably the contracting firm we're working with, AEW, who was doing the locating of those assets underground. So he could have been looking in the front yard for some of the items in the right-of-way, or maybe possibly in the backyard. There might have been some rear yard storm that they were locating. So that's more than likely what that was. They generally have that pole with a GPS coordinator up on the top. That's probably what that was.
Okay, and then with all the construction on Shaner right now, I mean, I know that I haven't been too shy about going out there and asking questions. I did see an unattended cooler out there, so I wanted to know if it was theirs or somebody just dropped it off, and come to find out that's where they actually store engineers store the samples there. And then there's also like 3 little cylinders on top of one of our manholes. I had to find out why those were there. So, like I said, if you can't get anybody out there because of the traffic, I'll just go out there and ask. The other thing is, I think it's a good idea that we investigate new meters. We've updated our electrical meters. I know that consumers updated and like in my neighborhood, have updated their gas meters. So I guess next in line for, because of new technology, would be our water meter. So that's a good thing. And I'm glad, and I appreciated the water flow chart as to how we get our water and the shutoffs, and that it helps. Okay, Parks and Rec. I want to know who's in charge of the weather for June the 28th. Because we've been telling everybody that we're going to be out there. So, through the chair to Mr. Langlos, are you in charge?
Mr. Langlos.
I am not in charge, as many know.
Yep.
Our parks are open, rain or shine, and we, do our best to offer any events that we have, no matter what the weather is too. We'll certainly have a contingency plan in place if we need to make some changes, but that's what we do. So it's not uncommon to have rain, but hopefully Mother Nature is smiling on us that day to make sure that all the residents that come out get to have an enjoyable time in Dodge Park. If not, we won't even need to turn the splash pad on, I guess.
Okay, yes. Well, thank you. It's just that maybe we should plan ahead for a rain date for the fireworks part of it, because we know we can walk around in the rain, and we'll all be under the farmers market pavilion so to keep dry, so we'll be fine. And just a few other comments that weren't even brought up tonight is Fillmore is really working out as a temporary facility. I go to classes there, and people are very happy there. The staff is ecstatic because of all the room they have for storage of records and files. So it is working out as a temporary facility, and to find out that they're actually going to have more room when they move into the building, everybody's excited. Skate park, we know, has been very popular, and for all the skeptics that said why, if you're there on any day where it's 45 degrees, sometimes even, lower than that, there are kids out there using it, so it's well used. We mentioned that the completion of the rec center would be in 2019. Through the chair to Mr. Langlos, when is the groundbreaking for that building?
We do expect groundbreaking to take place this coming June, so just in a couple months from now. We will be before you at the first council meeting in June with a recommendation to award a contract and a bid to a general contractor. So as soon as we can get the shovel in the ground after that, we will do so.
And that was what date again?
Don't have an exact date. June 5th is the council meeting, I believe. So as soon as we can get the contract books in place after that, we will have a shovel in the ground and start doing work, but it'll be in June of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then the last item that I want to bring up is, we've talked about this in the past, and I wondered if it's anything that we're working on, and that's a Trails app for Dodge Park, where you could be anywhere in the park, and you could say, well, you go this direction, and you're going to end up at the Nature Center. If you go this direction, you're going to end up on Kleino. So I was wondering if we've even thought about developing that app, And if we haven't, if we could consider it, through the chair to Mr. Langlos.
Mr. Langlois.
Yeah, I do expect that the first phase of kind of getting acclimated to the Park Finder app will spur a number of other applications that we'll be able to utilize for our park system. And certainly the trail maps is something that we want to get better, both in hard copy format, the signs that are on the trail system, as well as, an electronic version that people can utilize while they're on the trail. So I think we're tipping the ice. We're just hitting the tip of the iceberg with this Park Finder map, and then that will kind of get us moving in the directions after that to work on more drilled down applications that can help people when they're physically in the park.
Okay, thank you. And once again, just want to thank the residents, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to put this budget together and offer us the amenities that we do in the city. So thank you, and no further questions or comments.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Mr. Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to all the department heads. Great presentations. Like I said 2 weeks ago, this is a very exciting time to be in Sterling Heights, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. I'm going to be really quick, but I do want to clarify, first of all, something that I discussed 2 weeks ago, and that had to do with training for the police department and the fire department. And I spoke with both chiefs from each department, Chief Dwojukowski and also Chief Martin, and Chief Martin informed me that I may have misunderstood something. So if Ms. Varney, through the chair, would want to clarify that both chiefs, I should say, said that all their new staff is getting all the training that they need, and so my statement was not needed, I guess, or unnecessary. So through the chair.
I would actually say that I didn't present something clearly in your packet related to fire training. So in the past, the fire chief has, now again, you remember that people are asking for training funds 12 to 18 months in advance. So in the past, the fire chief would list every possible training that he thinks might come up the following year. But he wasn't really asking for additional money. It was more just to make sure everything that he possibly might want would be on the list. So, so that's kind of when it looked like we didn't award him training funds. He wasn't really even asking for additional funds. It was more like just extra items on the list that would all be included in the training funds that he has. The police department has been awarded additional training funds the past couple years because of the high turnover, and which of course results in extra training. And I believe both chiefs are satisfied with their training budgets.
Great. I just wanted to clarify that for the residents who may have been concerned with my statements 2 weeks ago that we weren't training properly, but apparently we are doing all the training that we should be doing with all the new officers and all the new firefighters. Really quick, this goes back to budget 17-18. I know there was some delay on the police station basement air conditioning. It just brought up, I just happened to see it in the budget here, the budget summary. And so has that air conditioning gone, has it been put into the basement of the police station? And through the chair to whoever would like to answer that.
Yes, quite an extensive project. They did a great job. It is up and running. So massive air conditioning unit done in our boiler room in the basement. So the guys are going to be quite excited. They have 120 guys all packed in with bulletproof vests that are soaking wet with sweat. And there was no air conditioning in that basement locker room. So this is the first summer where it's going to be cooled and crisp, and the guys are excited.
Good. Yes, and I had heard some complaints regarding that, so I'm really glad that got put in, especially since we're just about to get to summer. And since Chief, you're still there, as Mrs. Koski brought up, security cameras at the skate park, I think we should definitely have that as just maybe even as a deterrent. You know, smiling on camera, whatever it might be. Not that I think that there's, I just think that when you get large groups of people, things happen, and so I think that would be a good idea. Through the chair to Mr. Langlois, and this is going to be familiar to you, so it's something that I really feel strongly about, and I just want to bring it up. and see what we can, see where we're at. And, maybe if it's not in this budget, something in maybe next year's budget. But the bike share program, I would really like to see that over in Dodge Park, maybe even once in Delia Park if it's possible. Just something to look into, because I think that would be, it would fit in so well since we have such an extensive trail system at Dodge Park, and we're going to have one at Delia Park now too. I just really think that that would be, people don't have the ability to, throw their car in the back of the, on a bike rack or on top, whatever it might be, and they might want to go for a bike ride. And if we could offer that to them at a, in an affordable way, I think it would really be like cherry on top for Dodge Park, to be honest with you. So I don't know if you want to give any information on it. I wanted to bring it up. It's up to you.
Mr. Langlois.
Sure. Actually, our plans for Dodge Park, we are working ahead to set aside space in Dodge Park for a bike share program. That being said, we're not in a position to roll that out, no pun intended, this year. One of my performance objectives is to do a very thorough analysis of bike share opportunities.
Sure.
I actually have a meeting coming up with a local resident who is interested in providing a bike share opportunity in the city. So we're going to start our research with that and kind of work our way down the list to see what the best option is. And then I do expect that that'll be something that we'll be looking at for a future budget.
Sure, and I know that there's going to be a lot going on in these first couple of years and how the logistics work over in Dodge Park, and so it may not be a wise idea to do it this year, but in the next 2-3 years, if we could make it happen, I would be really happy. So that's all the comments that I have. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shannon. Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a few brief comments and questions. First, this is my first time going through the budget hearings, and I want to say that the staff should be commended for their excellent presentations. I think there hasn't been a thing that I've had a question about that wasn't answered in these presentations. I want to thank you for your hard work. Through the chair to Ms. Varney, Candace Miller has stated that our litigation against the county will be added into our debt service for the sinkhole bond. Has it been added in as of yet?
Absolutely not. We have been closely monitoring our bills from the county. As I mentioned in my presentation, the county costs are fixed. So we know at the beginning of the year exactly how much the county is going to charge us. It's divided by 12, and we send a bill. So I and the controller, Nick Mackey, have been paying close attention to make sure that that bill is the exact same amount every month. And definitely not in the debt service. I mean, the debt service, again, we know exactly how much we're supposed to pay from the moment the bond is issued, and we are being very careful to make sure that we're not being billed for anything additional.
So I guess my question is, what happens when or if she tries to add in litigation costs to
We wouldn't pay it.
Wouldn't pay it.
And I would contact the city attorney.
Well, I appreciate that. I have a question for Mr. Langlois. I know when I first got elected, I approached you about potentially creating a linkage to Moravian Park from Swan Drive, Maizano Drive. I was wondering where we were in that process, if it's moving forward, because I know that several residents in that neighborhood where former Councilman Skinars lived have been advocating for this for quite some time.
Mr. Langlois.
Yeah, Moravian Park is in our one of our next rounds of parks that we're going to be getting to. I believe that'll be one of the first ones in 2019. So later this fall, we'll be starting to design the plans. That is something that we've heard loud and clear from residents as well as yourself and other council members, and certainly something that we are taking to heart, and we will make sure that that gets rectified when we go through the process of renovating that park.
Wonderful. Then I have one more question for Mr. Vanderpool through the chair. Are we doing a manpower study on the police department right now? And if so, when will it be? When will it come back to us?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Radke, as I have indicated to City Council, we're looking at manpower across the organization over the next couple of years, including the police department, DPW, and other departments as well. So I anticipate it'll be within the next couple of fiscal years that we'll report back to you with a detailed analysis of where we think we need to increase manpower across the organization and how we would expect to get that done, the period of time to do that, and so on. Right now, we're in the process of filling numerous retirements, so it really doesn't make much sense to look at increasing manpower at this point in time. So it really gives us a perfect period of time to conduct the due diligence and the studies that are required.
So when do we expect it to come back?
As I mentioned, in the next couple of fiscal years, so anywhere from 12 to 24 months.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Okay, last and not least, I want to commend all of our department heads. Wonderful presentations. We didn't mention Mrs. Turgeon. She didn't get to present, but she has an excellent, I just want to say, put out a little kudos for the library. When we did prior to our elections and we were out getting signatures, a lot of time was spent in front of the library. That is an enormous asset to the city. The programming is excellent, and residents love it, so thank you for that. I do have a couple of questions for Chief Wojciechowski, please. Sorry, Chief, you've been up and down all night. My first question is about the drones, and I know that we do have to have the FAA licensing. My dad's a pilot, so I know kind of how that goes. But are these drones, obviously they have a camera, are they going to have a microphone so they can go up to a vehicle of question and be able to request they get out of their car or whatever?
Yeah, I believe the one we're looking at purchasing does have a microphone, so you can listen to audio, have a headset on, and in fact, you can speak with a boom microphone. You can actually talk out of the drone. Okay. They are quite loud if you ever heard a drone on the rotors when they're spinning. So those are all add-ons and features, so we haven't got to the nitty-gritty of exactly how we're going to outfit our drone, but that would be a great tool, is to have a microphone for listening and even a speaker.
Okay, very good. And then my second question, the new transport van for the prisoners looks great, but is there an officer in the back of that van?
No, the officers, we have two officers that are driving the van, and then the prisoner is put in the back of the van with a camera, and then in the front of the van is a big monitor, and you can actually monitor the prisoner live right there from the dashboard. You can see exactly what they're doing in the back.
Okay. Well, they could be sneaky.
Yep.
Okay, and that's all I have for Chief Wojciechowski. Thank you so much, Chief. Again, I have three of my children did the DARE program, so I'm very glad to see the Smart Moves is coming back. My youngest never got it. Probably could have used it, but that's a whole different story. No, he's a good kid. But, so I'm really glad to see that. My kids still remember their DARE officers, and they still talk about them, and they saw the one that was, one of ours that was retired every year, and they still loved them. So they made a difference. Even to boys. Sometimes, you wonder. My next question is going to be to Kyle Langlois, please. And I'm not clear on this, probably because I just didn't go to the website, but if you could tell the residents, where is the camping going to be done? Is it Dodge Park? Where is it going to be?
Mr. Langlois.
Thank you. The camp out is actually at the Nature Center.
Okay.
It's one of our Nature Center-driven events, so,
okay.
Which is perfect because that's where the water trail comes in for those doing canoeing if they so choose, and also archery equipment is there as well.
Okay, and that brings me to my second question for you, the kayaking and canoe livery and launch. So we're going to have it both out of the Nature Center. It's going to hit a small, the main livery is going to be where?
Main livery will be at the Nature Center.
Okay.
That makes the most sense. It's the the northernmost point on our river that we have a launch, so it'll operate right out of there in North Clinton River Park, and then the ending spot will be down at Rotary Park.
Okay, very good. And that main livery is also going to have the multi-adaptive launch for all different abilities and disabilities. Very good. And when is that going to be up and running?
I guess a couple different parts to that. The universally accessible launch will be going in this summer. That'll be ahead of time for when the actual livery will be put in, which is scheduled for next year.
Okay. But then, so the launches will be in and running, but the livery itself isn't going to be till next. And so, but we can bring our own canoes, kayaks, and head down the river. Very good. And then to address Mr. Jefferson's question, what about splash park supervision? What do we have going on, and what's the plan?
Our plan does include having multiple staff people on site each day, one to handle, I guess, the check-in point, if you would, and then one floating around the splash pad, just making sure that everybody's continuing to follow the rules, answering questions, so on and so forth. We do not have plans for a police officer to be stationed there. But we do expect, as we do with all of our programs and activities and facilities, we've been fortunate to have the police department respond in a very timely fashion if there is ever an issue that comes up. We expect that will continue, especially in proximity to, how close Dodge Park is to the police department.
And with that, my last question, being that there's children and water and it's a little slippery, is there going to be any type of first aid facilities offered? What are we going to do for that?
Yes, our staff will all be first aid CPR certified, concussion trained as well, so we'll be able to identify any signs that would come with a concussion if there is a slip and fall. We will have a fully stocked first aid kit on site with a stop the bleed kit as well, so we will be prepared for any type of scenario that comes up. And then, of course, anything we can't handle, fire department will be right there.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, and that concludes all of my questions. Thank you, everyone, again.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sarowski. Thank you, Council. I'd also like to thank all of the administrators and department heads who were here and presented for both of these presentations. I couldn't be happier with the job done. Very informative, very professionally done. Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool, for your help in putting these together as well. I think that, as the council said, it's a very exciting time to be in Sterling Heights and to be part of the government, part of the budgetary process. I've been through kind of up and down in my time on the council, and it certainly is a lot more fun to be here now and see all of the great things going on than in years past when we were talking about constricting budgets and laying people off. So this is a great time for Sterling Heights, and I'm excited for the rest of this year, and I'm excited about the road projects that are going to be done out of this budget, and excited about all of the investment in our police and fire and DPW and all of our different departments. So I really don't have any questions or anything to add. Just wanted to make that recognition. Thank you to all of our employees. And last but not least, to Mrs. Varney, a wonderful job, and we really appreciate your professionalism and the job that you have done. You've been a seamless transition from Mr. Baker, and speaking on behalf of my colleagues, I think I can say we're all extremely pleased with the job that you've done. So thank you. And with that, I don't believe there are any other motions to make, so I will move on to communications from citizens. We have one citizen in the audience. Mr. Jefferson, would you like to speak?
To question for Ms. Sarowski asked it, what is the age limit for going into the splash park? Say if you're an adult and you came there without a child, are you allowed in the splash park? Like I said, we have to start looking at stuff like this because it is out there. It is no easy way to deal with it, but there are people out there with bad intentions on their mind. But now we're going to get to a ghetto revival. And the sermon goes like this: we're going to have this tale of two corporations. First corporation is Starbucks. Second corporation is Sterling Heights. Over the last week, Starbucks has dealt with a situation with discrimination against folks. We ain't going to talk about the situation, but just how to handle it. Starbucks, they saw that they had a problem with an individual. They let that person go because they couldn't afford to have that happen with their business. Sterling Heights has a problem with a person on the planning commission, and you have not dealt with that yet in no form. None of you folks have ever said, hey, you might have said it in private that that's disgusting, but you haven't done anything about it. And then tonight you guys come up here and speak about diversity here in Sterling Heights, how you want diversity, but yet you got a person on the planning commission who waves the ISIS flag, who says that we are not all created equally, so we should be treated unfairly. I don't know how you people can sit up there and not say anything. Just say no comment. Say something. Do something. crazy. I don't see how you women could sit up here in 2018 and say that, yes, we are not created equal to you folks, and we should be treated unequally. You agree with that? If you have to agree, you women have to agree with that, because you guys have yet to stand up there and say anything or do anything. We got the police chief here. Yes, chief, that was a terrorist threat. If that was a child at a school, they would be arrested and facing a long jail term, a long probation term, a high bail. Something should have been done about that. Ms. Rowski, you say you're a colored woman. Ain't no colored women gonna deal with that one. That's just, they're not gonna deal with you telling them that they aren't equal and they should be treated unfairly. And believe me, I done dealt with a lot of them in my life, and that would not happen. So how you sit up here week in and week out and not deal with that, I don't know. It's beyond me. So I can now say that, Mrs. Koski, you're a racist. Mayor Taylor, you're a racist. Michael Radke, I'm not gonna call you a racist. You ain't been up there long enough. But you should have said something. You should have stepped up and said something. Ms. Schmidt, you're a racist. Because you guys haven't dealt with this. You haven't publicly dealt with this. You cannot say you're offended by it and not say nothing. None of us can. So, bye.
All right, I'll close that portion. Mr. Vanderpool, anything tonight?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Mr. Koszybski?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Council, anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate the presentations. This meeting is adjourned.